Okay, so let's get into this real quick. As you know, we talk about essentially fraud that's been occurring with the Social Security Administration. And, the thing is, there's always been fraud. There's always going to be, to some degree, fraud occurring. But what we have to focus on here is there seems to be a lot of fraud being found nowadays. Now, some of it even goes back to the era of Biden, where they were starting to do investigations on this. Although I will definitely say the amount of people and the level of fraud that they've been able to discover has significantly increased. Here's another one from the Office of Inspector General. And I think it's interesting because this talks about the specific of what this video is about, which is the corpse check. That's what it is. You get a check from essentially a corpse. And the corpse is essentially a person who has passed away who should no longer be receiving a benefit. And as a result of that, they never report them and their death. And as a result of that, basically the checks keep going. Now, somewhere in the comments section, we will see somebody who will scream into the comments, "How could you? How dare you?" They always know when somebody passes. And I guess the weird thing for me is that there's really like three levels of people, right? You have the people who live on farms where you just would never know if somebody passed unless somebody told somebody and somebody knew something, or they live out in the sticks and nobody would know unless somebody actually knew. And that person would have to tell somebody, right? Then you have people who live in like suburbanville and stuff like that. You're probably going to know if somebody passes. Then you have people who live in the city. You're going to know real quick somebody passes. You're going to know right away when somebody passes usually. So you get people from each group of these three different sections, giving their like, this is how it is. Of course they know when somebody passes. Those are your city people. The people who live on the farm, they, obviously they have a different perspective. I'll just put it that way, a different perspective. Rochester woman going to prison for defrauding Social Security, July 17th, 2025. Rochester, U.S. Attorney Michael DiGiacomo announced today that Wendy Stone, 63, so not a youngin', of Rochester, New York, who was convicted of conversion, unlawful conveyance of government money, was sentenced to serve 12 months in prison by U.S. District Judge Frank P. Garasi Jr. Assistant U.S. Attorney Nicholas M. Testani, who handled the case, stated that in December of 2022, victim one was a recipient of benefits under the Supplemental Security Income Program. Okay, so we got a victim. The victim got SSI benefits. Okay. On December 28th of 2022, victim one died at a residence in Rochester. Stone discovered the victim one's body days after victim one died. She was also aware that the victim collected SSI program benefits, but rather than inform authorities of victim one's death, so basically Stone took victim one's debit card and spent SSI program money still being deposited into victim one's account for her own benefit. In furtherance of this scheme, Stone used victim one's social security number to activate a new debit card in the name of victim one. In order to conceal victim one's death and continue receiving victim one's SSI program benefits, Stone, this wonderful 63-year-old Wendy Stone, moved victim one, our SSI recipient's corpse, into the basement of the residence victim one died in. She wrapped victim one's corpse in plastic, placed it in a recycling bin, and periodically poured bleach on it. Victim one's corpse remained in the basement from December 22 to September 23, so almost a whole year. Between January of 23 and September of 23, Stone improperly collected $7,902 in SSI program benefits intended for victim one. In addition, on February 6, 2023, Stone recertified the SNAP benefits. Got to get those food stamps, right? In her recertification, Stone stated that victim one still resided with her. As a result of this false information, Stone received an additional $1,072 in SNAP benefits that she was not entitled to receive. The sentencing is the result of an investigation by the Social Security Administration Office of Inspector General under the direction of Special Agent in Charge Amy Connolly and the Rochester Police Department under the direction of Chief David Smith. All right. So what do we have here? We have basically around a year of a person who had passed. Somebody lived with that person. Somebody then folded that individual and put them into a recycling bin in the garage. Wrapped them in plastic, making sure that the body would be contained, and then would continue to pour certain liquids on top of that body to keep the smell down, etc. And as a result of this situation, At some point, I'm sure the medical insurance groups that were looking to connect and refill medication, all of that stuff, were probably getting a little confused as to why our person who had impairments to be on SSI of age issues, right, was not getting their medication renewed. Because let's call it like it is. When you're sick and you don't get your medication renewed, somebody's going to start asking questions. What's sad about this is that these corpse checks are not unusual. And one of the things you have to realize is that a lot of these caretakers, a lot of them don't have another job, or the other job they have doesn't pay them enough. So they have to have this job. And if they don't have this job, they're not going to be able to pay rent because they don't usually have these caretakers like a storage bin of like tons and tons of money. They're basically living month to month based on the money they get from this individual. So as a result of this situation, the problem is that we have, essentially, putting it very simply put, abuse of a corpse. And then we have abuse of Social Security benefits, specifically supplemental security income. And at the end of the day, it's a horrible, horrible thing to think that somebody who would be taking care of you would then fake, that you're alive, hide your body in a garbage bin, and basically wrap you in plastic and pour fluid on you. It's hard to imagine that people would go to that extreme to keep getting that money. But as we look at the economy and how people are doing, we got a lot of poor people and a lot of people that are not doing well. And so this is becoming a almost like accepted thing that just keeps happening over and over. And it's not good. It's not okay. I wanted to bring this to your attention because if you are out there thinking, hey, maybe I'll do something like this. If you're thinking that logic, it is incredibly important that you realize that they are going to catch you. When a retired person or disabled person passes and they're no longer renewing their medication or going to the doctor's office like they would always do it, it immediately throws up flags. It immediately causes a situation where they look into that person. Now, when I say immediately, it might take them a year to figure it out. It might take them a year. But within that year, they're going to start asking questions. By the end of that year, they're going to be on top of it. So please, if you know somebody who is old and they've passed away, let them do it with dignity. Let them go through the traditional channels. Social Security will have to stop the check. All right. With that said, I will catch you all a little bit later. You have a wonderful, amazing weekend. I'm going to go work outside a little bit. It is record numbers of heat in Florida, just absolute misery. Please be safe. Please take care of yourself. And please be kind to your fellow neighbors in the chat, your fellow neighbors in life outside of the chat, among your neighborhood. Please be kind to them. I'll catch you a little bit later. Have a wonderful day. Attorney Walter Hnot, Disability Resolution. Please like and subscribe. Head over to Google and type in Disability Resolution Law Firm or Disability Resolution Florida. Throw some stars up there on the company profile if you want. I always appreciate it. I'll catch you later and have a wonderful night. Thank you so much. Bye-bye, everybody. Bye-bye.